So, Brother Laith, it's great to be back again, my man.
Thank you for coming once more.
Last time we saw each other, I believe, was in the summertime. I couldn't see you on my most recent visit because you were under the weather, but you've recovered nicely. You're back in the saddle.
Alhamdulillah.
So today we are in a part of Beirut known as Hamra, and we are going to explore. You're going to take us for a tour of the humanitarian situation, shall we say, here in Beirut as a result of the Zionist aggressions.
Yeah, this building behind us was hit obviously during the last invasion in 1982. And the whole area of Hamra. See, we have people already coming, as we heard her, to the Capuchin school right there. This is some of the internally displaced are staying there. We'll come back to it later to talk to the people,
right?
And see how they're being treated and how people are dealing with the situation.
So before we get into the humanitarian situation, could you just tell us a little bit more about Hamra generally, the history of this place?
Yes, so Hamra is the cafe restaurant area of downtown Beirut. There's a coffee shop up here called Barzakh that is serving some of the displaced. We'll come back to it also. Okay. But here is Hamra Street. It's very famous, known across the region for cafes and restaurants. Usually, specifically in the last 6-7 years, there's been an economic crash here in Lebanon. And the Hamra was hit really hard economically. It's practically empty. The stores were closing up. And now that there's all these displaced from across Lebanon and from the southern suburb of Beirut, a lot of people came to the Hamra area, hoping that it's safer. And therefore, we could see right now how packed the streets are. You could see how all these cars are double parked. They're not supposed to be parked on both sides of the road. There's so much traffic. Every building practically in the core area here, whether it's abandoned or unfinished construction, people have taken refuge in these buildings.
And this area, is it diverse religiously, culturally, or is it Sunni? Is it Shia? What's the demographic makeup?
So this is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in all of Beirut because it's the financial kind of cultural area. You have Shia, Sunnis, Christian Orthodox, Maronite, Druze, and everybody has kind of a part of the neighborhood that the parties, different parties that have control of different streets. You'll see their flags.
And one of those parties, I believe, is the SSNP, the Syria Social Nationalist Party?
Yes, the Syrian Social National Party, and it is a party that calls for the unification of the greater Syria region. We're actually right now walking in an area that's very, very important for the SSNP and for the Lebanese resistance in general. Here's actually something that's commemorating what I was going to tell you about. If you can show us, Hadi, if you can show us this banner here, up here. So it says Syrian National Social Party, and under it the National Resistance Front, Patriotic Resistance Front, and it says this is the square of Khaled Alwan. He is the hero of the Wimpy operation on the 24th of September 1982.
That was during the Israeli occupation of Beirut.
Yes, so the Israelis occupied Beirut. The Palestinian resistance was expelled from Lebanon under supposed promise by the Americans that they will protect the Palestinian refugees when they leave, and the slaughter happened. At that point was the lowest point in resistance in Lebanon as a whole, and everybody thought that the resistance is dead since the Palestinians were expelled and so forth. So out of the blue, Khaled Alwan was walking here. There was a coffee shop called Wimpy Coffee Shop.
Where was that coffee shop?
Right here. And now there's a restaurant named after it here. We'll go to it in a second.
Okay. Yeah.
But there was 2 Israeli officers that
From the occupation
from the
forces.
occupation that ordered coffee at this coffee shop, and were saying that they will pay with the Israeli shekel, that they were refusing to pay with the Lebanese lira and or the dollar. They were going to pay with the Israeli shekel. And Khaled Alwan was standing there. He couldn't, accept this humiliation happening to the coffee shop workers that were being
It's double humiliation.
double humiliation, with this occupation officers that are trying to force you to take their Israeli money. So he just pulled a gun and took them all out. They were
And he said his famous quote, like, keep the change.
Keep the change.
keep that change. That's exactly what he said. Keep the change in bullets. And that, number one, triggered the fear inside the Israeli occupation forces, and began the withdrawal. And it also inflamed the imagination of the Lebanese people in Beirut, who were demoralized after the Sabra and Shatila massacre and after the expulsion of the Palestinian resistance here. So Khaled Alwan was a spark for reinvigoration of the resistance. So SSNP and Khaled Alwan forever.
Now you said that the SSNP calls for the reunification of the greater Syrian nation. What would that encompass, the greater Syrian nation?
Yeah, like you see that for a while here it said Wimpy, and they took it off. But now it's an Iraqi restaurant. In the minute Lebanon is fully liberated, we should turn these places into historical visiting places. We have to reopen the Wimpy. So
Right.
you're asking about
The greater Syrian
SSNP.
nation. Yes.
So, geographically, the Levant, as it's called in English, or the Fertile Crescent, is one region. Geographically, it's also one subculture within the Arabic peoples. So we're talking about Iraq and Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, the north parts of Arabia. This is all one geographic region, and historically has, the people are intermarried. It's the same tribes, it's the same families, and Sykes-Picot, the British-French treaty, was designed specifically to cut off the people from each other. Because if this Fertile Crescent area, this greater Syria area is unified, it will have the same weight as Iran or Turkey. It will be like 90 plus million people with all the resources that they need, with the depth, geographic depth, to actually be sovereign.
Yes.
Even without going all the way to unifying all the Arabic people, just unifying Greater Syria makes a counter to the colonials. And this is why SSNP was one of the first targets of the colonial authorities, the French and the British, when they occupied in World War I, was to target the SSNP. It is multi-faith, it is not sectarian, it is geography-based, so this was a threat to the French and the English, and they assassinated the founder, and then they started assassinating many of the other leaders of the SSNP. And this is why it's still very strong in Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, and Jordan, specifically the SSNP. So
I understand there's another group, before we move on from the SSNP, of a very different political orientation. I believe it's the Phalangists, other far rightists, who believe that Lebanon should be smaller than its internationally recognized boundaries and effectively exclude the south and the Bekaa in the east. Is that correct? And who are these people?
Yes.
I've never heard anything like that before, that there's a political movement in the country that says we should give up territory.
Yes.
That's amazing. I mean, so what's this all about?
Yes, obviously, you know, anytime there's an occupied people, there's collaborationists. And there is those who serve the colonialists and adopt whatever identity the colonial master tells them to. You know, given that the West as a whole has based their fake identity on looting the heritage of the Arabic peoples and their ancestors, meaning Christianity and Judaism, we can see how the West tried to take part of our indigenous peoples, the Christian part, and you know, entice them to want to be part of this fake white identity that was created by the West. And unfortunately, as always during occupations and colonization, there is people that collaborate. And here in Lebanon, it was the Christian supremacist parties that came out, the Phalange and the Kataib, and those collaborated with the occupation, both French and eventually Israeli and American, and targeted first and foremost their own brethren in the Christian community. So they targeted, you know, churches, priests, and groups that viewed Christianity as indigenous to here, saw themselves as part of a wider culture, and so they were the first victims. The first victims, for instance, the Phalange had a huge war specifically against the SSNP because of that Hadi. Look at this. Look at this. So this building is in the middle of Hamra, has been for a while abandoned because there's no more business for 6 years almost. And now
It was a commercial structure.
it's a commercial structure, and people went in.
Not apartments.
Yeah, and so the internally displaced took it over because it should be taken
Right.
over. If
Yes,
the owners
absolutely.
are not using it, it is for the
especially
people.
in the time of war.
Yes.
I don't know if you can see this, Hadi, but people have their clothes out here on the...
I'm trying.
Right. This is, wow.
Yeah, so we'll see even a new building down the street. Let's go to it, just
Okay.
on the next corner.
So we're now walking away from the commercial building, which has been commandeered by people in need, quite rightly. And we had an interesting interaction there, Brother Laith, with some people, I understand, some men who are associated with the very party we've been talking about, the SSNP. And I just want to say, before I ask you to explain what happened to our audience, as somebody who doesn't live in Lebanon, I have noticed here throughout this entire conflict, it's just completely understandable, but it's disorienting, is there's a lot of sensitivity around people recording things.
Yeah.
And you can't just take out your cell phone, especially in a city like Beirut, and start filming stuff. People don't know who you are and expect that you aren't going to draw attention. You're going to draw attention and it's not going to be good. So why don't you tell us what happened here?
Yeah, well, obviously, in the last few days, there was multiple Israeli agents that were caught filming. You see, it says here, do not transmit names, do not speak about places, do not use your camera. The enemy is watching.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So clearly, the Israelis are.
Public awareness campaign.
Yes, so the Israelis are kind of mass collecting all information that's coming out of all electronic devices in Lebanon and using it to target things, number one. Number two, there is already, as I was saying, 2 Israeli agents pretending to be journalists that were caught in the streets of Beirut. And
When was that?
yesterday and the day before.
Wow.
And
Okay.
they were handed over to the military, and because the military is captured by the Americans, they gave up those agents to the Americans, and they got deported with nothing happening to them. I'm gonna just answer this call. is from the SSNP people because that we needed to speak to and update them on what we're doing. So
Okay. Go ahead.
nothing bad happens.
Sure. So we're good?
Yes, we're good.
Okay.
We updated them. They're all good with what we're doing. Obviously, people are sensitive about filming the buildings where people are taking refuge, because as we saw in Gaza, the Israelis are purposefully targeting where refugees are gathering. So
Yes.
for instance, those schools, like the school that we visited today, definitely could be a target because of the depraved Zionists.
Yes, the Zionists regard, they put like a bullseye on anything that's a civilian shelter or whatever. It's like a higher risk of being destroyed by the Zionists if it's designated and known to be a civilian
Look,
shelter.
this building is not even finished construction,
Wow.
and it's already now been taken over by refugees. So this is supposed to be like luxury condos. So clearly now Hamra is become a heart of where the displaced are, and we will be visiting the schools and the food distribution centers right now. Let's go to the school and one of the kitchens that are serving people.
Great. And just before we sign off, I wanted to comment one more as somebody who was raised. Yes, someone who was raised in the Greek Orthodox religion.
Let's sit down here for a minute.
I'm not a practitioner, but when I was younger, I was quite a devout man, a young man, and I actually read the New Testament 7 times when I was a teenager. And I have to say that any self-professed Christian, whether they be phalangists, whether they be North American evangelicals, whether they be Greek Orthodox, whether they be Maronites, who support an entity like the Zionist entity or the governments in the West who back it, are an affront to the most core values of Christianity. I don't know how any sane human being can devote him or herself to understanding the New Testament and come away thinking that you can reconcile the values expressed in that text with support for the Zionist entity. It's just utterly remarkable to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, anyone who claims to be Jewish and supports Zionism is in complete contradiction of the teachings of our prophet Moses.
Yes, correct.
The liberator of slaves.
Right.
The one that fought against the Pharaoh, the oppressive Pharaoh. The one that said, don't kill, don't steal, don't covet your neighbor's things. And what do the Zionists do? They kill, they steal, they covet their neighbor's land, and they enslave people. So clearly the teachings of the monotheistic prophets are teachings of love and unity. Our prophets, Jesus, Moses, Muhammad, say we come from one mother and father. Adam and Eve, we're all one. And our God, our Creator, will be judging us on how we treat each other, not even how we treat him or them, So it's Zionism, Christian supremacy, Muslim supremacy, Jewish supremacy are all in contradiction to the oneness that our prophets have preached and have brought as a gift to humanity. So yes, the Phalange are anti-Christian. The Zionists are anti-Jewish.
The evangelicals
Wahhabis are anti-Muslim.
Yes.
You see, they're not only Muslim supremacists or Christian supremacists or Jewish supremacists, they are anti the teachings of their own prophet.
Well said. And on that note, let's go see how the Lebanese people are helping their brothers and sisters who have been displaced.
Let's do that.